Hello and welcome to all of you. Today, we will give you a presentation on a lesson plan. During the presentation, Teacher Khaloud Ali will be with you with fellow teachers Aisha Ali, Reem L'Anizi, Fahad Khalid, and Abdulaziz Jamal. During this presentation, we will talk about every step that we will take for each level of the plan. The plan will be within the primary level, specifically for the first grade. So, as teachers in the future, we hope that you will benefit from our presentation for today and get information that will help you in preparing plans for future lessons. So, be with us.
In our presentation of the 5E lesson plan, we will have 5 parts. That is engaging, exploring, explain, elaborate, evaluate. In the first part, we will have a video to get the student interest. And the aim of the second part is exploration, to provide the student time to think about the concept of the light. And the third part, we will have 2 methods to explain. And the fourth part will encourage the student to apply the expansion and strengthening of the new concept of terminology by asking questions related to the light. And the last one will ask the student to bring a paper and colors and scissors and glue to design a magazine to summarize the most important thing in the lesson. And this activity will require 7 minutes to do.
The main goal of today's plan is, after completing this lesson, the student is expected to know what is light and what its sources are.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdulaziz, and I will be illustrate the engaging part. Our engaging part will be using a video in order to gain a student mind and focus before the start the lesson, as well as making the student able to receive information after undertaking the introductory activity and be mindful in a position of readiness and receptivity to the lesson. After finishing seeing the video, we will have a 3 questions about the brainstorm. The first question will be, how many seasons have you watched in the video? As we can see, there is a 4 picture. Help the student think about the 4 seasons. And this question will help us obtain information from the child and make the student think about what they saw from the video, retrieve the information, and explore his ability to observe. And the second question will be, how many eggs were in the nest? This question will be develop the child's ability to imagine and accurately retrieve the image that he has seen to answer the question. For the last question will be, was the video in the day, night, or in the night? This question is more related to the scientific material because the child will think about the light and the source of the light that was in the video and the difference between daylight and night. And also this question will be placed to the child in the required focus to start the lesson.
First, the aim of this exploration that I did it is to provide students time to think about the concept of light and its sources. This will activate their knowledge and prepare them for the thinking and wondering that will happen throughout the lesson. At the beginning, I will tell my students that today you are going to answer questions just like scientists. The questions that I will explore with my students are: is light important? Are light sources man-made or natural? And if light travels through objects. Today you will do some smart thinking. So I used to do with my students smart thinking because smart thinking provides a simple framework to understand how memory and experience work while providing methods to implement specific strategies that will enable deliberate, helpful change to improve our effectiveness. However, for the first question, which is light important? I will close the light of the classroom and the curtains as well. Then I will write a word on the board and I will ask them to read what I wrote. After that, I will give the students 2 minutes to find out what happened when the lights are off and the curtains are closed in the classroom. Through this method, students will realize the importance of light. Moreover, I will display a slide contains different pictures of light resources, which some are natural sources and some are man-made sources. I will give the students 3 minutes to decide why they think this light source is natural or man-made. For this question, I will distribute a worksheet where they will decide whether the source mentioned in the table are natural or man-made by ticking the right column. So by this sheet, the students will recognize the types of light sources. This activity is about if the light is natural or man-made. So, this activity contains of 2 columns. The first column is natural sources and the second column is man-made sources. And at the left side of the activity, I put 4 sources of light. The first source is the sun, and the second source is the lamp, and the third is the stars, and the last one is torch. So, what you will do is to put tick on the right column. So, in this activity, you must read the 4 sources that I put it. Read them carefully and then define if it's natural source or man-made source. Finally, for the last question, which is if light travels through objects, I will do an experiment that lasts for 10 minutes in front of the students using a torch to find out which objects can pass or cannot pass the light through it. However, for the experiment, I will use a torch, marker, caps made from plastic, paper, and glass. First, I will put the torch on the table with a shade on the wall. Then I will place the different objects, which is the caps and marker, in front of the light in turn. And they will see that some objects allow the light to go through it, like the glass and the cup, which is plastic. And some objects let the light to go through it partially, while others stop the light from going through it. Also, I will ask the students to sit in groups and complete the activity provided in a recording sheet within 5 minutes. Then I will choose students randomly to answer, because this strategy helps to make the lesson more fun and enjoyable, and it gives each student the opportunity to participate. From this experiment and activity, the students will be able to differentiate between the objects that let the light pass through it, and the ones that do not let the light pass through it. Before I do the experiment, I will tell my students about the safety measures for this experiment are not to touch the glass caps because they are breakable, and not to touch the torch because it may also be broken. This activity is about light pass or cannot pass through objects. So, in this activity, also two columns. The first column, pass, and the second column, that cannot pass. And on the left column, I put 5 objects. First one is glass. Second is a plastic cap. Third, wood. Fourth, marker. Fifth, paper. So, here you must think what objects that the light can pass through it, and what objects that the light cannot pass through it by putting tick on the right column. As my students work in groups, I will walk around and confer with each group, noticing the smart thinking happening because it is beneficial, and I will provide clarification through questioning. And now we will move to the third part, which is the explain with Miss Khulud.
Yes! Yes! Yeah! Huh? Huh? Huh?
Our topic for today is Introduction to Light. Light is a form of energy that enables us to see all the things around us. The main source of light on the earth is the sun. Plants are able to prepare their own food using sunlight. Some other objects also give out light. They are known as luminous objects. For example, bulbs, lamps, candles, etc. are luminous objects. While there are some objects that do not give out light, they are known as non-luminous objects. For example, table, cloth, bag, utensils, etc. are non-luminous objects. Non-luminous objects are generally of two types: transparent objects and opaque objects. Transparent objects are those that allow light to pass through them, like glass, water, etc. While opaque objects are those that do not allow light to pass through them, like wood, stone, etc.
This is teacher-student Khulud. Here I'm going to talk about one of the 5 E lessons, which is explanation. In this part, I will use 2 methods to explain the lesson. The first method is the presentation method, and I will show a sample video about the content of the lesson, which is the search of light. This video talks about light and what its sources are, and the duration of this video is approximately 4 minutes. And this method is attractive to a child in the first grade of a primary school, especially if the video carries cartoon pictures and music to attract the attention of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old child. This strategy will take approximately a quarter of an hour for class time. As for the second method, it's the method of a lecture, through which I will discuss with the student what they saw in the video and ask them to summarize to me what they saw. So what I'm going to do is that I will ask them to define what is the light for me and enumerate its sources. And through these questions, I will deduce the information that the students benefited from the video. And after each student's answer, I will ask the remaining students if they had any addition to what their classmates said. As a teacher, I have to make variety in my lesson explanations. And here I'm going to use strategies to explain this part of the lesson. So I'm gonna use the peer learning strategy. What is peer learning strategy? Peer learning strategy is a teaching system in which learners help each other based on the premise that education is oriented and learner-centered, taking into account an effective learning environment that focused on the students' full integration in the cooperative learning processes and depends on learners teaching each other. Some of them are under the supervision of the teacher. So the steps to implement this will be as follows. To implement this strategy, the following steps are followed. The first students will ask the question, and the second students will answer it, while the third students write down the ideas, which are a summary of the question and answer. The rules are exchanged between students every time with different questions. Then, the 3 students discuss among themselves about their answers before they present them to the teacher and the rest of the students. The students will gain new scientific terms, vocabularies, and explanations while discussing their answers together. Here, my role as a teacher will be to guide them, supervise them, and to provide the groups with feedbacks and ask for justifications, evidence, and clarifications from the students. With the presentation method again, I will explain to them why we experimented with closing the lights and curtains a little while ago. And after finishing watching the video and presenting the questions to students, I will remind them of the activity we took earlier in which they recognized the type of light sources. And I will go back to explain why each column is classified, whether it is from nature sources or not. Then I will start by asking the questions about the second experiment that we have done, through which we have identified what materials pass through and what materials do not allow light to pass through. I will mention the previous examples that we took and give a chance to students to ask questions and discuss the information that they learned through experiences, and give them a chance to add to each other's discussions. After I finish the explanation, I will ask the students to tell me what are the vocabulary that we learned with their own words, and I will ask the rest of the students to add to the words of their colleagues and encourage them to ask the questions in the places that they could not understand and motivate them to ask these questions.
In this part, I will encourage students to apply the extension and strengthen of the new concept of terminology by asking questions related to the light lesson. After what the students have learned about the concept of light in the explanation stage, through the first activity, I will ask the student to define the light in their own words. This will develop their understanding of knowing the light. The second activity, I will present to the students some vocabulary, light, shadow, and show them some pictures. And through the pictures, the student must connect the vocabulary with the picture. After explaining, I will present to the student a group of things, and I will start asking questions like, what are the presented things? What is the thing that the light cannot pass through? These questions will relate to the student's knowledge in his daily life through the presented things, and I will also develop the student's concept of light. Also, I will encourage the students to form new ideas by asking questions. What are the benefits of light? This question will give the student an opportunity to learn additional ideas in terms for the students to incorporate them into the mental structure of the concept of them to confirm and extend their understanding. I expect the students to be enthusiastic and have a lot of creative answers. When they answer, I will start asking questions. Why do you think this is a benefit of light? And ask students to clarify more to make sure that they understood the topic. After making sure that the student understood the definition of the light and its resources, I will ask the students a question. Mention new resources that we did not learn in the lesson of light. This question will stimulate their thinking and is related to their daily life. Last, I will give them a practical activity. I will show them some objects and I will ask them with this object, how can I make shade? Lamp, paper, clay. And I expect them to do this activity in 3 minutes. In this part,
Thank you, Mr. Fahad. And now let's move to the evaluate. At the end of the lesson, the student should be learned what is the light and what is the light resource. I will ask a student to bring papers, colors, glue to design a magazine. To summarize the most important things that they learned from the lesson. This activity requires 7 minutes to do. Then I will create a rubric for them and distribute it to the student. And the rubric includes some criteria such as whether the information in the magazine is correct, does the magazine include expressive picture, is the magazine arranged. Then I will ask students to exchange magazine between each other to evaluate each other by putting sad face or happy face. Then I will wander among the students, observing the students' work. The teacher walks around among the students as they perform activity and through conversation with them or their dialogue with them, the teacher can assess understanding to be able to discover the student level of understanding of the lesson. Knowing the level of his understanding and knowledge of the subject when evaluating the student and informing him of the evaluation result, the teacher and the student know the extent to which the student understands the scientific subject and what topics should be focused on in the lesson or upcoming lecture to strengthen the student's understanding of it. And the student know the topics on which he should spend time and effort to observe it well. As for the strategy, I will apply with the student to strategy. And each strategy requires 5 minutes. The first strategy is open question strategy. I will ask a student open questions such as what is the meaning of light? What is the resource of light? And the student should write the answer on the piece of paper. As for the second strategy, I will apply with the student a 1, 2, 3 strategy, to which the student answers individually through these questions. The first question is, what did you learn from the lesson? Secondly, what are the things that you would like to know more about? The third question, do you have other questions? In this way, I will evaluate the student and make sure that they understand the lesson. I hope you enjoy in our presentation. Thank you for listening.